We have new cards in Imperial Assault. Guys, I am so excited to talk about Season 3 of the IACP. Oh my god. So, welcome to IA Command, this TV boy. Coming back. Welcome back from a bit of a break. I was taking about a month off from the channel during the holidays. Just got a new job, and it's been really crazy. Been working about 50-hour weeks. But it's a Saturday, I'm at home, my wife's out of the house, went to hang out with her friends, and new season cards just got announced for Imperial Assault, and I am so excited to talk about them. So let's jump right into it and talk about the new cards. And let's just start off. So first of all, big kudos to, or huge kudos to the IACP steering committee, especially Chris Emick for posting this. Not, you know, he didn't just dump a bunch of images. They put up an article. They talked about the design process for how they made these cards and how they came up with them, and it's so well written. Like, I felt like I was reading something like a professional copy put out by like a big game studio like Wizards of the Coast or Fantasy Flight, even better than those. Really well written, so make sure you guys check that out. I'm going to put a link in the description to the announcement, and we're going to talk about the cards here. I'm going to go over all the cards. We're going to talk about them. I'm going to try and keep it pretty brief, but let's dive in. This is going to be a fun video. So let's cut to the quick. We're going to go to the figure that I think everyone, or a lot of people, have been waiting for in Imperial Assault, and now it's coming. It's going to be available to play with in Skirmish at least, and that is going to be Yoda. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to put an image up on the side of the screen here, and then I'm going to put on the other side the actual cards from the announcement. And that's because a lot of the cards that they put up there don't actually have any images on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have an image on the side so we can kind of know what character we're talking about at a glance, and also so that when we look at cards that were recently updated, you guys can, I'll put up the original card on the left side of the screen, and then we can compare it to the new version on the right side. So let's talk about Yoda. So first of all, I want to mention that, so guys, this Yoda that they are bringing to the game, this is not going to be like Clone Wars Yoda, like Jedi lightsabers spinning, screaming Yoda from Attack of the Clones. This is Yoda from Empire Strikes Back, from Dagobah. He's an old man. He doesn't have his lightsaber anymore. He lost it against Palpatine. And I think this is going to be really good. So let's just take a look at him right away. So we got Yoda, Jedi Master, 5 points, Force User Leader. He's got +1 block and +1 evade on a white defense die, and he's got 9 health. So kind of tanky for 5 points. That +1 block, +1 evade. The white die is not great, but with the +1 block, +1 evade, he actually can take, it'll probably take 2 or maybe even 3 attacks, like good attacks, to take him down. He also has Surge for Recover 2, and he has a melee attack with a single green die. And again, remember, this is Yoda, stick Yoda with a staff, not with a lightsaber. So probably not going to be wanting to attack with him very often with that single green die. Although maybe he'll hit R2 for a couple damage. Pretty thematic. So let's look at his abilities here. Oh, by the way, he's speed 3 because he's pretty slow. So he has got quite a few abilities. So we're looking at, the first ability is Calming Presence. At the start of your activation, remove all harmful conditions from a friendly figure. There's no range restriction on that, so that's pretty awesome. He can just kind of reach out across the map, and if you've got a weaken or a stun on somebody, you can just take that off. Next we have Wisdom. At the start of your activation, you may draw 1 command card. If you do, choose 1 command card from your hand and place it on the bottom of your deck. So that doesn't cost an action. It's as soon as you activate. It doesn't give rebels any extra card advantage, which they didn't need. They don't need more card drawing, but it does give them more card selection which is really important for certain archetypes that really want to have certain command cards, especially early in the game. Next is going to be a special action, Mind Muddle. Choose up to 2 figures within 4 spaces. Those figures suffer 2 strain and become weakened. So this is nice. This is kind of like Bully. It's very thematic for Yoda, I think. He does, but let's talk about that. I think 4 spaces, after playing Palpatine a little bit, 4 spaces is a lot farther than you sometimes think. And the only problem is 2 strain. Rebels don't usually use a lot of strain, so it doesn't really play into their strategy. But the weakened is really nice. Weakened is actually pretty good status on enemy figures. Finally, next one, this is a 4th ability out of 5. Special action, do or do not. Choose another friendly rebel force user within 3 spaces. That figure becomes focus. So that's nice. Another focuser for rebels, for specifically force user. Sorry guys. For specifically force user figures, it's restricted to 3, and that makes it kind of hard for me because force users are always going out to the front line. So that means he's gonna be having to keep pace with those figures and kind of stay just slightly in the back line to be helping them. But he doesn't need line of sight, so that's good. And finally, Jedi Code. You cannot be included in Imperial or mercenary armies. So Yoda is strictly rebel only. He does not help the bad guys. So let's talk about this guy Yoda real quick. I think they did a great job. I think this is like exactly what a lot of us were envisioning Yoda would be. Slow figure, pretty good at defending, but not like a tank, not hard hitting, and not any kind of offensive abilities. Ton of support abilities, kind of like a counterpart to Palpatine and Jabba and the other factions. Wisdom is really strong because, again, so I think the idea here is you want to put this in a force user list, but he is good in other lists besides that. But it's going to be nice that with Wisdom you're going to be able to draw those force user command cards and melee command cards that you really need for force users to be effective. And then also Calming Presence works really well with stuff like Jedi Luke if he's going to use Parting Blow, and that way you don't have to use something like Unshakable to remove that stun. So great figure. I think they did a great job. The only thing I would nitpick is I think it's odd that he's a leader. Just he wasn't really a leader in the Civil War era. He was a hermit. But I guess as a teacher, teachers are kind of leaders, so that's fine. Ooh, you know what? I actually forgot to talk about Yoda's new command card. So let's look at that. They did make a command card for Yoda, and it is called There Is No Try. So 2 points. Use on a friendly rebel force user within 4 spaces, rolls any number of dice. Choose one of those dice and turn that die to any other side. On the chosen die, convert each dodge result to 2 blocks and 1 evade. So this is pretty cool. It basically gives much to learn to a friendly rebel force user within 4 spaces, the same thing that Ezra is able to do. But you can do it on defense, except that you don't get to have a dodge from it. I'm not sure about this one for 2 points. Like, if it was within any range, the fact that he has to be within 4 spaces, which means he needs to be kind of on the front lines with the force users or really close to them while they're either defending or, I guess, you know, when they're defending, so that's pretty good. But if you draw it late, he can use it on himself though, so that's actually pretty good. So especially on defense, he could get a 2 block 1 evade on defense with his bonuses. It would be 3 blocks and 2 evades. So yeah, this card's actually pretty good. Closing thoughts on Yoda. So he's supposed to be like a support figure for force users, but his 2 abilities that affect force users have a range limit. So, and he's only 3 speed, and I play a lot of rebel force users, and the problem with force users is that they have, since they're melee, they have to go out and find their enemies, and they usually end up being cut off from their support. And that's what gets them, is that they get stuck behind enemy lines. and they don't have any access to focus or buffs from support figures. Like 3PO can't get to them, Hera can't help them. So I'm worried that Yoda, being a speed 3 figure, I'm not sure if he'll actually be able to keep up with the other Jedi in the list to use these abilities, but we'll have to wait and see. I think ultimately they did a really good job with Yoda. He looks really thematic. Yeah, love this card. Let's talk about the next card, which is going to be in the Imperial side. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to talk about all the new cards that they created, like brand new figures to the game, and then we'll go ahead and talk about stuff that they changed faction by faction. And by the way, so if you're wondering how are we going to use Yoda, they said in the article that they're going to be announcing soon some ways that players will be able to put Yoda on the table in their Imperial Assault games. Currently, there's not too many great options that I could find for getting a Yoda miniature. He's not in Legion yet. He's not, like, we usually look at Mel's Miniatures store for custom figures, and Mel doesn't have one for Yoda yet. So I think for right now, probably your best bet is either a token, like a cardboard token printout, or like a Wizards of the Coast miniatures game Yoda, if you can find one on eBay. And I'm pretty sure they made a lot of versions, but it's gonna be exciting to see how we can do that. But for this next figure that we're going to talk about, that's going to be less of a problem, because this next figure is the, let's see, not that one, spoilers, the Scout Trooper. And this card has actually had a release in Legion, which means that we can buy could buy Legion figures to use to stand in for this model. And the small figures from Legion, they are a slightly larger scale, but they fit perfectly fine on an Imperial Assault battlefield next to other Imperial Assault figures. I've done it. I use Legion figures in my Imperial Assault games, like I use the Legion Leia because I prefer the sculpt, and it looks fine. So let's talk about these Scout Troopers. So they are a 2-figure unit, generic. We only have the elite version. I don't know if we're going to get a regular version for these guys. But they are troopers and spies. I didn't even realize that they're spies. That's awesome. It's always great when you can get more spies in a list. So Scout Troopers, they have, let's look at their 8 points for the group, 4-point figure cost for each one. They have 7 health, black defense dice. They are speed 4. They do a ranged attack of a blue and a red. They have a built-in +3 accuracy, surge for +2 damage, and a surge for +3 accuracy. So decent enough attack, about the same as a heavy stormtrooper, an elite heavy stormtrooper, slightly better accuracy, and they can surge for more accuracy. But let's look at the rest of their abilities, because I think that's going to affect our evaluation of their offensive prowess. So their first ability is actually a defensive one, Camouflage. Hostile figures 4 or more spaces away from you cannot draw line of sight to you. You do not block line of sight for those figures. So that's basically the same ability that Mac has as a hero in the campaign, and it's super strong. It's means that they can move around the map closer to their deployment zone and not have to worry about getting picked off by long-range sniping attacks. Means they can take those objectives that are close to their side of the map, the terminal, and they never have to worry about getting sniped. That's awesome. Their next ability is a special action called Find Weakness. Choose a hostile figure in your line of sight. That figure becomes weakened. So that's interesting. Let's look at the next one. So they kind of go hand in hand. So Exploit Weakness. When attacking a figure with a harmful condition, apply +1 surge to your attack results. So basically these guys kind of work like snipers and anti-snipers. They are anti-sniper because they can't be attacked from long range, and then they kind of work as like a spotter sniper tag team. So it's a kind of that classic archetype. You've got one guy with the binoculars, he spots the target, paints a target on it like an electronic target, and in this case he makes it weakened. And then now that it's weakened, the next guy that shoots at it gets not only the -1 evade for the weaken, but also gets to apply +1 surge. And that's really important because with that +1 surge, it means that they're going to be getting a total of +6 accuracy for a minimum range of 8, which is really good. I mean, that's like elite Rebel Alliance Rangers are shooting usually at around 8 to 10 accuracy. That being said, 8 isn't always going to be super long like everybody, so I think it's nice that they can't quite hit the huge range numbers that the Alliance Rangers can hit, which Alliance Rangers can hit people at like range 12 if they have a focus and like Hera and all that. And there's no way for Imperials to really add on to accuracy. So I think that differentiates them well from the Alliance Rangers as sniper units. Yeah, this looks like a good... This is an interesting figure for Imperials. It's a sniper long-range figure. Imperials normally do not have access to something like that, but it's not the same level of caliber as an Alliance Ranger. It doesn't have that same... They don't really have access to focus. And they can't do like a 3 triple tap the way the Rangers can, but they have a really interesting niche, and they're nice anti-sniper units. So I am really excited to try these or see these in play. The fact that they're spies means they're going to fit well into the Imperial spy archetypes that have been popping up lately, and I think this is a really cool design. And you know, honestly, like if you ask me what Imperial figure would you be the most excited to see come to Imperial Assault, the Scout Troopers probably the last words that would ever come out of my mouth. But again, this is a solid design, really cool, and it's really accessible because you can just go to your local game store, grab a pack of these Scout Troopers from Legion, and I think one of them's like looks like a sniper with a long sniper rifle, and there's another mini in there that has like binoculars or something. So this is really cool. So that's the Scout Troopers. Let's look at the new figures for Scum. And these are exciting also. So new figures for Scum. The first one, let's talk about, and I think we're going to skip that. We're going to talk about those. New figure, LOM and Zuckuss make their debut in Imperial Assault with the IACP Season 3 announcement. So let's talk about LOM first. He is an ambitious droid. He has the droid trait. He's 7 points. He's 9 health, 5 speed. He rolls a black defense dice. He has a ranged attack, red, blue, and a yellow that has a built-in +2 accuracy, and he has surge for +1 damage and +1 accuracy, surge for blast 1, and surge for weaken. So LOM abilities are, first is programming override. So at the start of each round, choose one trait. You gain that trait until the end of the round. So this is sweet. LOM, so for those who don't know, and I did a little bit of research into LOM when I was making my custom version, LOM's lore is that he was a protocol droid on a pleasure cruise ship that eventually, through contact with the ship's super nav computer or whatever, went rogue and decided that he wanted to be not just a protocol droid, he wanted to learn every skill and trait in the galaxy and basically be able to do anything, including being a Force user. He thought he could learn how to use the Force, and he wanted to be a bounty hunter. He wanted to be everything you could think of. So this is perfect to fit in with the lore of LOM. He can become a Force user. He can become a creature. He can become a spy, but he can only be one trait, or he can only gain one of those traits in addition to being a droid each round. So this is really fun for lists that maybe were lacking, like especially in mercenaries. This means you'll have another Force user that you can join with Maul in a mercenary Force user list, etc., etc. Brawlers for like Gamorrean guards. Obviously fits into a hunter list. He's got that nice ranged attack. So let's talk about his next ability. He has a surge ability called Concussive Bolt. So after this attack resolves, if you are attacking a small figure and it did not miss, you may push that figure 1 space. So again, this is fitting into the lore, and Chris writes about this in the article. You can, if you when you go to the website, you can read all about how they did all their research on the lore of LOM. He actually had a grenade launcher or some kind of explosive gun that was given to him by his partner, who we'll talk about in a second, and that he would use to kind of bounce people around. So that's how they're representing this. In addition to being able to do blast one, you can also push someone with the attack, which is pretty powerful. Like being able to push someone off of an objective after they've already activated, being able to push someone out into line of sight of the rest of your hunter or figures to attack, really strong. And it doesn't need to deal damage, it just needs to not miss. So if they dodge it, or if you don't get enough accuracy, then you won't be able to do it. But with his attack and the +2 accuracy, he can attack pretty reliably at range 4 to 5 or even 6. And with a focus, he attacks pretty far. So that's going to be really good. Shared Intuition is next ability. While attacking, if another friendly hunter within 3 spaces has line of sight to the target space, apply +1 damage to your attack results. So this is to fit in with him being part of a twosome, and his partner in crime is going to be along with for the ride with him a lot. This is nice. It's just like you're focus firing on someone, you get extra damage. I like this ability. It's nice and simple, and I really like this card. I feel like they hit every like story lore beat about this character flavor wise. He looks modestly statted. Like 9 health on a 7-point figure is like but when you consider that he can be a hunter and he can be doing long range attacks, then you don't want him to be too tanky. Speed 5 is interesting. Speed 5 is really good, and we'll see how that pans out. I didn't realize he was such a speedy character, but that gives him a lot more options for popping in and out and making attacks of opportunity. So let's talk about his partner, since that is who he is intended to be run with, to use that shared intuition. And his partner is, of course, oh, you know what? Let's talk about his command card first. So he has an interesting command card. Preservation Protocol. 1 point. Use when you have suffered damage equal to your health. Instead of being defeated, recover 1 damage. Until the end of the game, you lose programming override and shared intuition. So I like this. It's flavorful. It's super powerful. Honestly, like, excuse me, this is basically Miracle Worker, but only for himself, and you only go back, you go back to being 1 health, but it's only 1 point. This seems really strong. So basically what happens flavorfully is when he is defeated, he actually gets reset back to his like stock model. So you only get to keep his gun ability, which is Concussive Bolt, but he doesn't have the ability to gain traits anymore, and he doesn't have that shared intuition attack +1 damage ability. So I love the flavor. I think it's actually really strong. I think it's really strong for 1 point, and I think it's going to see play. I think you should run it if you're going to test out LOM in a list. Okay, so let's look at his partner, who I spoiled there at the bottom of the screen. Zuckuss. Zuckuss is in, of course, with LOM, and you can see this is what he looks like. And for those who don't remember, Zuckuss and LOM were bounty hunters that were on the deck of the Executor, or whatever Vader's Star Destroyer at the time was, in Empire Strikes Back, alongside Boba Fett, Bosk, IG-88. So bringing them into Imperial Assault is really important. It rounds out those 6 bounty hunters that we saw in the movie, since we already have the other ones. Dengar are already in the game. So let's look at Zuckuss. So 7 points again, just like LOM. This time 10 health, 4 speed, black defense dice. He's got an attack of yellow and green, but we'll get back to that in just a moment. It's got +2 accuracy, great surge abilities, surge for +2, surge for pierce 2, and surge for +3 accuracy. Those are like the 3 best stock surge abilities in the game, and to get them all in 1 attack is really good. Let's look at his abilities. Mystic Hunter. When you declare an attack, you become focused. So this is basically just the assassin ability that you see on BT1. It's also been used now by IACP on Diala. And of course it's also on IG-88. So that green-yellow attack is actually a green-green-yellow attack. But because of that ability, it means that focusing him is pointless. So he can't roll more than 3 dice by focusing him. It'll be redundant. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty strong attack. He's also got a surge ability, which is Stun Net. So after this attack resolves, if it did not miss, the target becomes stunned. So again, another ability that's just straight out of the extended universe lore of Zuckuss having a Stun Net weapon. Brings a nice element of control to mercenaries, especially the hunter archetype. So instead of just doing a ton of damage, Zuckuss can kind of slow the opponent's figures down, or if the opponent leaves their figure out in the open, Zuckuss can get them with a stun so that they're exposed for 1 more turn. And then the final ability on Zuckuss is the third ability, which is Shared Calculation. So when attacking a friendly droid, I wonder which droid that would be, within 3 spaces has line of sight to the target space, you may force the defender to re-roll 1 defense die. So that's really nice. And of course works in concert with 4 LOM in the list. But there's actually a lot of droids is an archetype that's already established. You've got IG-88, you've got Jawas bringing other droids from other factions. So droid, you could even run in with HKs, although those are also hunters, so that would work with both Zuckuss and 4 LOM. So yeah, these are really cool figures. Let's talk about Zuckuss's command card here. So his command card is Findsman Meditation. So use at the start of the round to choose one of your opponent's groups. So that means any deployment group. When your opponent activates that group during this round, you may interrupt to perform a move or attack. So that's pretty cool. This is open information. It's not secret. So you choose a opponent's group openly, and they know which one you chose. And then I really like this card. This is kind of like Kanan's Force Vision, but it has some teeth to it, because with Kanan, Kanan forces them to activate someone when Kanan activates, but with this card you have this kind of knowledge of hey, if you activate that group, I'm gonna get to shoot at them if I'm in position, or maybe this will force them to activate that group sooner than they want to because you haven't moved Zuckuss into position yet. I think you probably want to get that free attack if you can, but it opens up some really interesting strategic tactics. So I believe those are all the new figures that are going to be in Imperial Assault being brought by the Season 3 announcement. And these are really exciting. So what we're going to do is, this video has gone a little long. I'm going to have this be its own video where we talked about all of the new ones. So we talked about Yoda, Scout Troopers, and then 4 LOM and Zuckuss. And then in the next video we'll talk about all of the figures that have been changed or updated with Season 3, which you can see here on the screen. So yeah, check out the next video. Glad to be back. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are as excited as me that we're finally, after August 2018 it's been since Tyrants came out, we're actually getting new content for Imperial Assault. And a huge thank you to the IACP and all the guys and people and ladies and everybody who is involved in playtesting and working on that. Thank you guys for this. Keeping Imperial Assault fresh, and we're going to be playing this game for a while. Alright guys, peace out. Bye.